it opened the floodgates to data, and they have been, just pushing data a lot more out there. But yeah, and in the end, it's, how do you convert the data into information and then actionable?
Market. What's a realistic market share? Is that 500,000 dominated by two sellers who get $480,000 between us? And
so I do understand that you have, you were there for making the money and stuff, but still, when you flip a business or when you give it away, doesn't it take one part of your heart away as well?
People don't buy in the way we think they do, which is type a keyword, click an ad, put it into cart, put credit card, buy. People don't buy like that all of
Yeah, but is, starting now, how will they make sure that their foundations are correct and, their foundations are true so that they can build the first floor and the second?
Too much about sales and revenue, and we don't factor in how we engage with customers. What does it cost to acquire a customer? What's the value of that customer? And then we go on to things like market.
When you are flipping the brand, these kinds of conversation or these kind of data points really help you out as well, right? Because you are like, this is the actual lifetime data that we have.
It's like building a house. A lot of sellers are sort of trying to build floor 2 without building floor 1 and the foundation.
This idea of lifetime value has been totally abandoned by most Amazon sellers. I think there are a lot of products on Amazon that can sell well even without doing much of advertising or doing much of
You've got to remember is that people don't buy products on Amazon. That's the first thing to remember. They buy solutions to problems.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Looking forward to speaking to you today.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I'm gonna just start off with the question that you just told me that you used to run like 5 Subway coffee shops. Yeah, the shops.
Yeah,
5.
so
5 outlets of them.
Yeah.
So my question is, what I've heard is that food business or restaurant business is the world's I think the most difficult business to run because the customer retention and everything else is just terrible. So how did you manage to get it up to 5, and how was that whole thing for you?
Well, firstly, it was a franchise. So what comes with a franchise is a set model where you get a big manual on how to do it properly, and I think that's one of the reasons why franchises are successful. But yes, hospitality is one of the hardest businesses to run because you have all of the things that make business difficult. You have low volume of low cost of goods. You have very low prices. You have very, very high numbers of customers. You have high levels of staff. You have premises, which you don't often own. All of those things you don't own much, but the turnover of staff and the cost of making that business work is can be quite a heavy toil on your health as well.
Yeah, that's what I imagine, because you have to make sure that everything is, because actually one of my friends started this. So he started a restaurant, and I have seen him after that. Like I have seen him when he was very enthusiastic about it, and he's buying all this stuff and remodeling the kitchen and making sure that we have all the new stuff, all the new pans and fryers and stuff, and we have the pizza oven and everything else. And then when he started running it after 3 months, he was like, oh, that's just cost, that thing is costly, that thing is costly. So
it's
so
it's very, very tough on your family. I did it when I was a little bit younger and when I didn't have grey hair, and yes, it's quite a toll on your family. And I got out when I started to have children, and I realized that it impacted. And when I went to move to e-commerce, I said to myself, I don't want staff, and I want to effectively have something that I could sell on in terms of what I owned, and something I could control and work from home, which is really
makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. But then the question is like, how different is it to working from home, like making that shift because you have experienced both lives where you have to stay at a place for 12 hours, and make sure that it's like from the start of it to the end of it. I don't know how long were the timings of it, but I'm pretty sure they were more than or 12 hours. And then switching to home where you have to make sure everything is running tidy. And yeah, how was that transition for you?
The transition from, I mean, eventually when you get big enough as in any business, you start, effectively, if you talk about the sandwiches, you stop making the sandwiches and you start
Yeah,
managing the people that make the sandwiches, and
yeah,
then you step up to manage the shops or manage the people that manage the shops, and you keep
yeah,
going up. And it's the same way in e-commerce. We all start as Amazon sellers selling a product, doing everything, and then you gradually, whether you get VAs or whether you get PPC managers or you outsource stuff, you gradually go up. So
yeah,
working at home, I found it quite difficult to start with. The hardest thing for Amazon sellers is working on their own, because there's a
yeah.
lot of conflicting advice out there about what you should do, who you should work with, and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it can be difficult.
Yeah, and yeah, you are right, because we do get, like, even on LinkedIn we get a lot of conflicting advice. And I'm like, sometimes, and especially after ChatGPT, it has gotten a lot worse. Like, yeah. So now
It
everybody is
has.
posting, and there is more information out there. There's more data out there, but there's not enough information. So that kind of conflict is going on, where you have a lot of data, but nothing good is coming out of it. And I often ask this question, that what's the use of it if you are just going to churn out everything? Just let ChatGPT churn out stuff, and it's just basically it's recycling everything instead of putting out new information.
It is. I mean, I always try and say, I get data and I create information. So, we are not short of data in Amazon businesses, and it's coming from many different sources, some of it conflicting. And the job of us that work with sellers is to try and make sense of that, plus try and factor in all of the things that are happening in our industry and changing, and try and make sense of that in a way that a seller can actually look at that information and make decisions about their business. I mean, the average seller, is not going to care about cost per clicks and bids and
Yeah,
all of the keywords and all of that. They're saying, what do I need to do to make more money, grow my
yeah.
sales, grow my market share, or whatever it is. Um, and we sometimes in the industry are guilty of confusing people by giving too much data,
Yeah.
and not enough clear information and guidance.
Yep. Also, you like I was reading about your methodology, and it's like 8 pillars. So, what are those 8 pillars, and what does it pan out to, and what are the expected results from those 8 pillars?
So, the 8 pillars are just something. I mean, it doesn't have to be. Um, the 8 pillars are just something I came up with that try and kind of define all of the um, areas of an Amazon business that you need to factor in. Um, Let me just make sure that I um, actually have them there, so I can. So, I mean, essentially, most people think of, the 8 pillars. Sorry, most of them people think in terms of just sales, maybe, and inventory. But you've got things like customer engagement. You've
Yep.
got things like market share. These are the things that often people forget about. You've got, obviously, you've got products, you've got financial. There are all of these pillars that make up all of these different elements that I'm just making sure that I don't miss any. But it's important that you factor in every single element of running a business. And we talk too much about sales and revenue, and we don't factor in how we engage with customers. What does it cost to acquire a customer? What's the value of
Yep.
that customer? And then we go on to things like markets. and we
Yeah.
don't talk enough about market share and what is our true market for our product.
Yeah, then no, that actually makes a lot of sense because you can have a really great product, but then if it doesn't have a good lifetime value, or if it doesn't have a if it doesn't transition to the customer engagement or other stuff, then that brand is almost useless. But at the same time, uh, because Amazon selling on Amazon is very tricky as well because there are two type of people. One type of person is the one who just gets the who just wants to make money, so he's totally focused on trying three different variations of the same product, and then whichever works he's gonna work on it and make sure that he keeps getting sales. And then the other people are, and there are very few people who are actually into making the brand and then making sure that this brand translates into something bigger, and then might be flipping it or something. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
and
very
the future is real brands. It used to be when I started back in 2016, you could sell anything. You could put
yeah
up anything. You could buy a product from wherever and put your logo on it, and you could sell anything. But the market has grown up, and now it's about building real brands, selling real products to real customers with real needs. Um, and some people still think that we're living in the past in terms of the Amazon marketplace, and it's just about keywords and pretty pictures on
yeah
listing. And it's so much more. It's about how people feel about your brand, not just about what you sell. And often when I talk to sellers, I'm talking about, let's get the fundamentals right. Let's understand why people buy your product, because what we've got to remember is that people don't buy products on Amazon. That's the first
yeah
thing to remember. They buy solutions to problems.
yeah
So, people don't buy a baby sleep monitor. They buy that product because their baby is crying at night. That is the problem.
yeah
They don't buy a particular outfit because they want an outfit. They buy an outfit because they've got to dress up for an event or go to work and look smart in a suit. And it's the problem that we've got to focus on. And that's becoming even more evident as we move towards this AI Rufus type culture where people are less keyword focused,
yeah
more asking questions that it's expected that your listing and your products will answer those questions, rather than just typing in some keyword that you think will match to a product.
That's actually very interesting take. Like I do understand it, and yeah, but I never thought about it this way, this particular way. Yeah, I was like, how do we optimize it for Rufus? But yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. That if I give more solution oriented, titles, or if I give more solution oriented description, I will be able to, actually help the customer get this thing,
Yeah, I mean, people
done.
are asking questions. They don't start, they don't. The traditional way has been, baby sleep monitor. If we use that example, or baby, help with, baby sleep cry monitor or something like that. Whereas now they're going to something like Rufus or a Chat GPT or something, and they're saying, I'm looking for a product because my baby cries at night, and they're typing that
Yeah,
in. What can you recommend? And it comes back with an answer, and you say, well, does that have X, Y, and Z on it? And
yeah,
that's how they're interacting. And it's more about real answers. And obviously, Rufus gets it from reviews and listings and various other places, and ChatGPT gets it from Reddit and all sorts of stuff like that. We're very much in the infancy, and it's difficult for us
yeah.
as advisors to say exactly what to do because it's moving so quickly. But the principles hold, is that we're moving away from search keywords towards search solutions,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that,
we we have to factor that in, and that's where brands win rather than just
yeah.
product sellers.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And like in terms of lifetime value for a product, how do you make sure that the product actually the brand actually structures their growth in terms of maximizing the brand lifetime value for their clients? Because I think that's something that is totally abandoned. This idea of a lifetime value has been totally abandoned by most Amazon sellers. I think there are a lot of products on Amazon that can sell well even without doing much of advertising or doing much of other stuff. If you have really good the brand, and you have a good customer loyal base that's behind it.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to say is that a lot of people um, mistake their success for skills, and that's not taking anything away from anyone. A lot of us had great success in 16, 17, 18 because we were early adopters to the marketplace. And so some people have struggled when they've tried to replicate it because they haven't understood the new rules of the way that you run businesses. But coming back to your point on lifetime value, I think it really depends on what product you're selling. So again, coming back to my example of a cuddly toy that sits in a cot, that aids a baby to sleep, you might not buy more than one of those. So your
Yeah,
lifetime value isn't actually so relevant.
yeah,
So now what it's about with that product, it's about how much it costs to acquire a customer, because you know
yeah,
you're predominantly interested in new customers every month. What's your conversion rate and all of that kind of stuff? How much do I put in my pocket after getting a new customer? But if you are selling a supplement or a beard oil or something like that, then yes, lifetime value is critical, because if you can get a customer to buy often, there are several
yeah,
levers that make lifetime value: average order value, repeat customer, and then you factor that all in, and you get lifetime value. And if you can increase that, then suddenly your business becomes far more profitable, because you're not
yeah,
having to get a new customer, because the existing customers are either coming back more often, or better still, they're buying more when they
yeah,
when they're actually shopping with you. And if you don't understand those fundamentals, you don't know what levers to pull. It's like building a house. A lot of sellers are sort of trying to build floor two without building floor one and the foundations. And the
yeah.
foundations are as those 8 pillars that I do. As long as you understand what your product is and why people buy, and lifetime value, cost to acquire, new customers, all of that kind of stuff. The problem is it's hard to get.
Yeah, that's true. And also, like when I think about foundations of a successful business, it's still very hard to understand as well. Although we have a lot of data out there and a lot of courses and every kind of stuff, but still the foundation of a true business, I think. Personally, like the more I think about it, or the more I have done Amazon and stuff, it's to me it's how strengthen your brand is, even if you have a product that sells a lot, but it's kind of damaging your brand. You should just get rid of it instead of keeping on the sales, because in the end the brand or the true name of it, or yeah, that kind of things is important. But the question is, if somebody is starting now, how will they make sure that their foundations are correct, and their foundations are true, so that they can build the first floor and the second floor?
The first thing that you need to understand is there a demand for my product? People often search for products, and they use these technical um, indicators that we get on all of the various tools that we use and all of that kind of stuff. But I like to start with, is there a demand for my product? If there is, because you can't create demand on Amazon. You
Yeah,
know, you're not one of the big, you're not Apple, you're not one of the big brands that can create
yeah,
demand. So you've got to prove, is there demand on my for my product? What are the competitors in this market? How big is that market? What sort of market share can I expect? And what sort of product do I need to create to fit into that market? And every market always has a low price, a mid price, and a premium product. And you've got to be
yeah,
clear about where you are in that product. Are you selling a cheap, you know, $5 beard oil, or are you selling, something in the middle, or are you real top end premium? And there's nothing wrong with each. They're all
yeah,
valid. but you've got to understand where you fit in, and you've got to look at what are the competitors selling that product that I'm looking at. What's their total size of the market? And this is where a lot of people, I think, get confused with markets, because I was having a conversation the other day with someone saying, what is a market? Well, on Amazon, is it a category? No, it's not really. I don't think it's an Amazon category, because a category encompasses many, many things. Is it what search
Yep.
query performance tells us? Probably not, because that's 1,000 keywords, all of that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of irrelevant stuff in there. I think it's more if you can identify, and this is where it's difficult, the 10, 20 competitors in your market that dominate page one, some of page two, that get the sales for the products you're trying to sell, and you can put that into some form of market tracker. There are many tools out there that do it. Or you can do what I do, which is I extract the data and put it into a dashboard. And then you can say, right, well, my market is worth $500,000 a month. That's what the market is. I'm selling, 5,000, or I plan to sell 5,000. Is that realistic to get, 1% of the market share? And that's where I think you've got to start with is, what's the market? What's a realistic market share? Is that 500,000 dominated by two sellers who get $480,000 between us, and the other 18 scrap over the rest? In which case, that's probably not a good market to go into.
Yeah.
And then how do those competitors get their sales? So I don't mean just
Yeah.
keywords, but I mean how do they drive traffic? What are they like? What's their listings like? All of that kind of stuff. But yeah, we start with the market, and then we move on to, okay, now I know what product I need, sort of doing it back to front rather than starting with just the
Yeah.
product. We look at the market and we say, what do I have to do? And it might be that you say, well, actually, there's a gap in that low end, or there's a gap
Yeah.
for a premium product. And then you've got to look at the financials, and you've got to say, and this is where a lot of people really don't understand the true financials on Amazon. And there's a lot of talk about revenue and things like that, but
Yeah.
not talk about profitability.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So how, like, yeah, profitability is it's another like issue on Amazon. Even most sellers that I have talked to or worked with, they have zero profit. Like even my friend, like my best friend, like my first friend from school, started his brand, and and before advertising, his profit was $1, and after, yeah,
$1.
and he came to, yeah, and after, like, he came to me and he was like, okay, so I got the supplier. I have shipped everything to to USA. It's in the it's inbound and everything. Would you like to look at my products? And I was looking, and I just asked him straight away, like, what's your profit margin? And he was like $1 before advertising it. I was like, if I start advertising it, what will you get? And he was like, yeah, probably nothing, but I'm thinking about improving it. And then it yeah I yeah it yeah so
It's the fundamentals. It's not just e-commerce or Amazon. It's the fundamentals of business. We're here to make money so that we
yeah
can spend it on our families and all of that. And sure, sometimes we have to go through periods of losing money or break even or something because we're trying to grow something. But fundamentally, you've got to be sure that you can make money. And there's no good in
yeah
the example of your friend, if there's no way that we can improve that from $1 to something sensible, then there's no point continuing.
yeah
And I think we as people who help sellers have an obligation to help them understand the true cost of running a
yeah
business. And there's, I get a little bit frustrated with this constant talk of 6, 7, 8 figure sellers, um, because they're talking about revenue. I was
yeah
looking at saw a webinar advertised, I think it was this morning, and it said something like, um, watch this webinar to show how I made or how I make 25k a month with my magic formula. And I'm not going to judge whether that formula or whether
Yeah,
that methodology is right or wrong. But my point is that the first question that came to my mind, 25k. Okay, what is that? Is that revenue?
yeah,
Is that profit? Is it gross profit? Is it net profit? Is it
yeah,
before overhead? It's and maybe I sound like I'm nitpicking, and maybe it sounds like I'm getting too into the weeds, but it's important because new sellers to Amazon have to understand the realistic costs of all of these fees that come out, fulfillment fees and advertise and delivery fees and all of these little fees that appear in your
yeah,
in your payments file and all
yeah,
of it. And so, as I'm not here to bash other providers who do that, but I think we have an obligation to be truthful about what it costs to run a business and what you can
yeah.
expect out of the other end.
Yeah, because the first time I opened that payment file, I genuinely got scared. Like I'm not even making this up because to me that guy was very profitable. And then I opened his payment file and I was like, how is he even surviving that? And yeah, like even I have one of my clients. He did $9 million a year in 2023, and then 2024 he forgot that because he did $9 million. So, and then fast forward to 2025, we have been scraping everything. Like we went from, like, we had to cut down everything that we were doing because in 2024 we were not careful with anything. And yeah, so like, if imagine talking about, yeah, growing things. And obviously there is a lot of growth market for the brand that he has. But yeah, going from doing 9 million a year and then being so happy and then expanding everything, and then just after 1 year you are like, let's shut everything down because we need to conserve everything and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been through this in 2025,
Yeah,
so I'm
it
actually
sounds
going
like
through that as well. So yeah, I understand this, and this is very scary, to be honest. Yeah,
it is. And to be fair to many sellers, understanding profitability on an Amazon business is difficult. If you dare to open a settlement file on Amazon, the bit that generates your
yeah.
2D thing, I was looking at it the other day, and there's 86 different transaction types in a settlement file that
Ooh.
I've created dashboards that kind of map it all and try and give
Yeah,
you a sense of what it is. But that to most sellers is just overwhelming because it's
yeah,
difficult to know, because they there's lots of hidden costs. And I was looking at one of my clients who sells in the baby space, and I worked out that just these little hidden adjustments and a hidden fee and a digital service fee and this fee added up to 8% of their
yeah.
turnover
Ooh.
of a particular product. And okay, maybe that was an extraordinary 2 week period,
But yeah,
but
I do understand. Yeah, but I do understand that 8% is,
there's a lot of things that make it harder to turn a profit. But fundamentally, as we were talking before we recorded, fundamentally, a good business is still a good business,
yeah,
and
that's
a good business with the good fundamentals will make money if you get those fundamentals and you understand um, those pillars, as I call it. You can call it what you like. How to engage with customers, what the financials are, what traffic you getting, what's your advertising, what's the marketplace, all of that kind of stuff. If you understand those fundamentals, then the rest kind of fits into place.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And also, I'm gonna just switch gears into a very different conversation and ask you something kind of personal. You have flipped like three businesses, right?
Yeah,
Two profitable ones. Yep.
yeah. So
So,
before
although I
Amazon Prime,
understand that, so I do understand that you have, you were there for making the money and stuff. But still, when you flip a business or when you give it away, doesn't it take one part of your heart away as well? Like when you are like, I built this. Yeah.
When I sold the Subway business, no, no, I was very, very glad.
You were happy.
I was very glad to get out of that business because, say, that's where the grey hair came from. But yeah, I mean, you do miss it because your business becomes you. It becomes everything that
Yeah,
you live for, and you kind of like. And I still look in on the businesses
yeah,
that I sold
yeah,
to see how they're doing and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, a little bit of you kind of disappears
yeah,
that day, but to to me it's a sort of a it's not a game, but it's a process that you follow to find the products and grow the business, and then maybe exit, maybe not. um,
yeah,
and exiting isn't the right thing for everyone. They can provide some really, really good cash flow income for businesses, for people
yeah.
rather. um, but for some of us, getting out is the right thing to do.
Yeah. So let's just touch base on, why is it not right to exit the business? I do understand that there is a point. Like I would say, like I don't want to say it because the marginal utility curve, but yeah, at the same time, we do understand that it's hard to make sure that when a product has peaked, and then you're like, okay, I should I get rid of it, or should I just make more complementary products to it and keep selling it, or yeah, how does that work? Because yeah, I have no idea like when to determine that, okay, it's the exit time.
Well, it's a bit like taking risk off the table. If you've built up, in your example of your $9 million friend, my businesses weren't at that scale, but they were decent. But when you've got a 9 million business, I don't know what the profitability level of that is, but that's a fairly sizable business.
Yeah,
And if you can bank that by taking some money off the table by selling it, then it puts you in a very strong position to then go
yeah,
again, because the cost of
yeah,
starting, and that's why we get however many thousand sellers a day joining Amazon, is the cost of starting a business is actually relatively small. And there are a
yeah,
lot of also businesses. My second business actually, my third business I sold, I didn't start, I bought it from someone because it was in a bit of a distressed state. And when you understand how to do it and how to make a business work, you can buy businesses, or you can start them from or with other people, or there's many different opportunities. But getting money off the table, I think, is really, and de-risking yourself, because you can go from 9 million to nothing, and
yeah, yeah,
suddenly you've got nothing, and
yeah,
you're sitting, oh, why didn't I sell? I mean, when I sold my Subway business, I often discuss with my wife, I said, I should have sold 2 years earlier, and I would have probably got considerably more, because
yeah,
the peak of selling those hospitality businesses. But you never know unless you operate in hindsight.
yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense as well. So yeah, I do understand the fractional growth partner thing with you, but at the same time, you have helped others. You have done other stuff as well. Like you were talking about the for example, your custom dashboard, because that's a very technical thing to get done. But at the same time, it requires a considerable amount of Amazon knowledge and understanding of the business as well. That okay, so these are the things that actually matter, and then these things will play out and stuff like that. Yeah, I do
Yeah, I mean,
understand.
it is. I actually find that stuff really interesting. Messing around with data, and some people would say that that's really sad. But it came out of a need, like many good businesses do, because I was so frustrated. My first dashboard was created in 2017, and it was a simple spreadsheet because I couldn't get profitability and I couldn't get the basics. Having coming out of Subway, where they, there's a manual this thick, and it teaches you how to calculate cost of goods, and
Yeah,
food cost in that example, and delivery costs, and all of the others. When I came to Amazon, I'm like, well, where's the dashboard for my profitability and my cost of goods?
yeah,
Where do I get the information on cost to acquire a customer? And like, there isn't
yeah,
one. So you end up creating it because
yeah,
it fulfills a need. And then when I started working with clients a few years ago, um, I started to build dashboards because I had to explain to them the
Yeah.
fundamentals and say, well, look, and I do video recordings for my clients. I do a report, which is all the dashboards, and then I do a video recording and say, you know, here's what the information is, but this is what it means. This
Yeah.
is what I'm seeing a decline in this or an increase in that, and that's actually what it means in terms of business decisions. So they can say, ah, right. So I need what Mark's telling me is this, this, and this. So I need to renegotiate my cost of goods, or I need to put my price up, or I need to cut my advertising budget, or I need to do something as an owner
Yeah.
to direct my service providers. I'm not
Yeah.
looking necessarily to become their agency or take over, or even, I can work alongside people because I'm trying to help people understand what
Yeah.
the business is. And things like lifetime value are really, really difficult to calculate.
Yeah.
They're really hard.
Yeah.
And I scratched my head for many, many weeks trying to work out how to calculate it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting as well, because you have to, yeah, because at the same time Amazon has so much data, but then it's not information, and also you have to make sure that you get the right set of information, and and it's an actionable information as well, so that you can take some actions on it as well. So yeah, I even now, even for really big companies and stuff as well, I really find it hard that they, like, it's very hard to take long term actions on the data and then stick through it and make sure that it actually leads to something. So yeah, but at the same time, you're right that business is a business. But for example, if a brand, I'm kind of switching the conversation, but yeah, if a brand is doing really good on Amazon, what should be their next move? Like, should they go out of Amazon, or should they just make more products on Amazon?
Well, that's always a difficult one to answer. I mean, because we are, um, we kind of, um, it's too easy sometimes on Amazon because everything's done for us. We don't have to factor
Yeah.
in, delivering to the customer and obtaining a customer and many things. And it's very, very easy to, to just say, oh, I'll go and sell on Shopify, or I'll just go and sell on
Yeah.
TikTok or this. And so, to me, you need to understand the five fundamentals before you start looking elsewhere. So, how much it costs to make my product? How much does it cost to acquire a customer? How much does it cost to sell to a customer, commission, things like that? How much
Yeah.
does it cost to deliver to a customer? And how much does it cost to store and manage my inventory? Those five things,
Yeah.
when you understand that, that's the fundamentals of a business, if you like, if you think of it in that way.
Yeah.
And then you then go and look at your, perhaps, I fancy doing it on TikTok. Right. Let's look at those five things and say, does selling on TikTok affect the cost of my product? Probably not. Does it cost different amount of money to acquire a customer? Yeah, it does. So let's
Yeah.
factor that in. It costs twice as much to get a customer on TikTok, or half as much. What's the cost of, you know, delivering to a customer in a TikTok environment? Well, let's compare that to Amazon. And so if you get a real like for like comparison, you can say, well, actually, I'm better off sticking in the Amazon environment
Yeah.
because it's more profitable. And so I'll look at going deep or wide. So I'll either go to other marketplaces.
Yeah.
I have a lot of clients that sell on the UK that are looking at, the obvious places like US. Personally, I would
Yeah.
probably look at Europe now, and Australia, Japan. Or do you stick to one marketplace and you go wide, like you were saying, which you go for multiple complementary products? I was listening to a podcast yesterday, um, about the new A plus content, sellable options. Can't remember what it's called now. Shoppable something, where you'll soon be able to, once you're on a listing, to be able to buy products that are complementary from your portfolio.
Oh,
So, you know,
nice.
if you sell, if you sell a particular fashion item like a suit or something, you could potentially sell shoes or a necktie or something like that. Or if you're selling food, you can sell complementary items, and
Yeah,
that's going to change the game significantly in terms of
yeah,
how you make money. Um, and then there's this whole area of AMC and the insights that that's starting to give us in terms of stuff that we never had. And for someone like me as a
yeah,
data specialist, you know,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I was like salivating when I saw AMC, and it's sad, but
yeah.
I really like digging into the data, and it's becoming easier and easier um, to get the data now.
Yeah, I think Amazon, like 2 years ago, they decided to open the floodgates to data, and they have been, just pushing data a lot more out there. But yeah, and in the end, it's how do you convert the data into information and then actionable items? So that's the whole process, because like a lot of brands have AMC, but they don't know what to do with it. And quite frankly, in the end, they are like, okay, so we are going to just lower the frequency of because there were very few people who if we show them over ads a lot, they don't buy. But if the person who saw over ad 2 times in a month or 2 times in 7 days, they were able to buy it. So let's just lower it. But it goes more deeper than that. Like it's a whole web of things that you can actually acquire from it. But yeah, at the same time, you do really need somebody who actually understands data to do it.
Well, it's not so much understanding. I mean, because we've got tools like ChatGPT and Claude at our discretion now, and
Like
so
ChatGPT, I'm like ChatGPT and data analysis don't go hand in hand. Like for me personally, I have had so many bad experiences with it
yeah,
that
yeah, I,
I have.
I, I do. I find myself saying to, "Are you sure that's right?"
Yeah.
but my point is that uh, you can get the data and you can get it analysed, whether it's
Yeah,
through a Claude or something like that. So we've been working with a snack brand in the US for some time now, and we just started to work on AMC recently when it started to come out and be available. Um, and like everyone, we were running your sponsored product ads and your sponsored
yeah,
display ads and your sponsored product ads, because of last touch attribution, was getting all of the credit and all of the glory.
yeah,
Sponsored display wasn't doing very well, and I'm kind of convinced that these sponsored display at the top of the funnel are doing well. But once you start looking in AMC at, and I'd recommend everyone to look at the ad overlap reports,
yeah,
and it can tell you, and one of the things from that example is that we worked out that when someone saw a sponsored product and then a sponsored display ad, they were more likely to buy by a factor of 10. It was
ooh,
massive,
nice,
the difference between, the sponsored product. So you increase your sponsored display and it all filters down, and okay, sponsored product still gets all the glory because it's a
yeah,
last attribution
yeah, yeah,
model, but and that's very difficult. And over the years, I've really struggled to explain that to customers. And I had a theory that sponsored display was doing well, even though it
yeah,
wasn't getting the click. Sorry, it wasn't
yeah,
getting
yeah,
the sales. But now with AMC, we can actually say, look here, look at
yeah,
this. Now we can prove that when we multiply the budget for sponsored display by 2 or 3, look what comes out at the
yeah,
bottom. And and there's, as you were saying a minute ago, frequency touches, we've got an average
yeah,
touch on that brand of 4, which is um, a customer on average touches one of our ads 4 times.
yeah,
Um, and so, it's people don't buy in the way we think they do, which is type a keyword, click an ad, put it into cart, put credit card, buy. People don't buy like that all of the
yeah,
time. That it's messy.
yeah.
It's
It's a lot
messy,
messier. Yeah,
and that's where I have a little bit of a problem with search query performance, because it relies on that clean sale.
yeah,
Add to cart. Sorry, click, you know, buy
Yeah.
product, add to cart, check out. When someone breaks the chain and buys a different product on your listing, that doesn't appear in search query performance. When it
Yeah.
starts getting messy, um, you just got to look at your purchase sales report on Amazon to see how often people buy a product they didn't click on,
Yeah. That
and
makes sense. Yeah.
and that kind of insight um, allows you to get away from this. You know, we're guilty on advertising to just think in terms of ACOS and clicks and bids and campaigns and that simple structure. But we have to think of the whole ecosystem of advertising
Yeah.
now. We have to think about these ads that drive awareness,
Yeah.
that drive the sale later. And
Yeah.
sometimes you can't just say that sponsored display ad, even though it's not getting sales, is actually doing a really, really good job.
Yeah.
Or these ads that we're putting on a listing. I'm talking about advertising here, but you know the
Yeah. Yeah. I
concept is
understand. Yeah.
right.
No,
It,
no, that
it,
actually makes a lot
it's
of sense.
messy.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
messy, and the data comes at us from all directions. And unfortunately, because of factors like timing and attribution, often the data is conflicting.
Yeah.
So you'll look at, you know, and I was looking at repeat orders on Amazon's, I think it was brand analytics dashboard. And then I realized it actually only factors in the repeat buys over that month that they bought.
Yeah.
Well, if you're buying a beard oil that you buy every 3 months, then you're not going to
Yeah.
get that as a repeat order. Whereas I
Yeah.
download all the order data and then I look back over the last 12 months to say, did that customer order from us previously and how often?
Yeah. Yeah. That actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah.
You
Because
just, you know,
yeah.
if you want to calculate lifetime value, take your order data from your fulfillment reports section.
Yeah.
And the best way I found was you get an encrypted email address. So everyone, you obviously don't know the customer's real email address, and Amazon encrypts it. But that encryption is unique to that Amazon seller. Of course, if they change their email address, then probably changes. But in principle,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. I
can look
understand. Yeah.
back and say that encrypted email address appeared 4 times in the last 12 months on my orders. So that customer has ordered 4 times. Oh, that's interesting. And then if you know, okay, you have to be comfortable with pivot tables and all of that nonsense. But that simple
That's
thing
actually
alone,
very that's very smart, to be honest. Like, yeah, this is really like this is very advanced level, research, and
well,
yeah, I love it. I
it's
love it.
kind of
I love
like
this.
it's hours and weeks of scratching my head. Now you can only get that on FBA. On FBM, you have to look at things like city and postcode or zip code,
Yeah,
and start saying, right, well, you know, I think that's the same
yeah,
customer. But you know, we do get things like lifetime value and things from Amazon dashboards, but I'm a little bit skeptical about how accurate that is.
yeah,
And so I prefer, being the natural skeptic, I prefer to calculate it myself. And it's not that hard if you've got the order data. You can say, well, you know, did that customer order from me before? How often? What did they order?
yeah. That
You can't target them
yeah,
again. I'm not talking about that. I'm just
yeah,
talking about
yeah. I understand. Yeah, you put in pivot table you put them there, the encryption there, and then you put it, the number of currencies on the on the
yeah,
value
average.
side, and you
You
get
just you get number of unique orders, number of
yeah,
unique customers. Um, you know the order data will give you your revenue, and then you just do some basic calculations. It says, well, your lifetime value of an average customer is this,
yeah,
and you can. There's very little you can do, of course, on Amazon to resell to those customers. I'm not talking about that.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about
But it's
understanding.
good knowing, yeah. But it's good knowing and understanding that okay, so this is the data, and yeah. So Mark, going to switch gears again, and I'm going to wrap it up really soon as well. But the real question is, when you are flipping the brand, these kinds of conversation or these kind of data points really help you out as well, right? Because you are like, this is the actual lifetime data that we have, acquired, and that's why, we are asking for what we are asking, and this is why it's very important for, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you sell a business, the buyer, and I've been a buyer as well as a seller, you're looking for the signals that tell you this is a good opportunity to buy.
Yeah,
Obviously, do you have good accounts? Can you prove that this has made money over a period of time? Do you have good SOPs so that I can take over and just run with it? But yeah, things like lifetime value and cost to acquire, and I don't panic about individual data points. I look at trends.
yeah, yeah,
So,
makes sense.
what you want to do as a buyer or a seller is prove that the trend is in the right direction. Cost to acquire is going down,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
lifetime value is going up, or average order value is going up, or profitability, or whatever it is, those pretty graphs with lines going in the right direction.
yeah,
And that's what a seller needs to know is that, in 3 months' time, you're going to have a problem because your cost to acquire a customer is going up. And at
yeah,
some point in 3 months' time, it's going to be prohibitively expensive to get a new customer, and therefore you're going to start losing money. That's the sort of thing that a seller needs to know, not, oh my god, I've got a problem today
yeah,
because
that makes sense.
I've had a peak on my sales or a decline, and we've all seen the posts on my sales down
Yeah.
today and all of that. We need to look at trends, not individual days.
So, Mark, do you remember that, in 2021 through 2023, like there was this whole thing of, aggregators buying up anything that
Oh
was
yes,
on the sale. And I think almost half of it was, just destroyed in few months' time. I think, yeah, a lot of aggregators had to shut down because they made really bad choices.
but
Yeah,
they did. Yeah, I mean, I was listening to a podcast interview with the guy that started Thrasio. I can't remember his name now,
yeah,
but really, really interesting guy and a really interesting podcast about the way the model was actually sound. The model of
yeah,
getting businesses and and being more efficient with inventory and all of that kind of stuff was really sound. But when all these other aggregators came in and started to get silly about you know the multiples they were paying and the fact that they didn't understand what they were buying. You and I
yeah,
who work with that with businesses, that running an Amazon business is quite a unique skill.
yeah,
It is, and you need to, so you can't just as a financial person come in and buy a brand and just say, right,
yeah,
well, I know how to run a business, therefore I know how to run an Amazon business. You know,
yeah,
it's bits of it are hard and bits of it are easy, but I think the whole aggregator space was spoilt by people paying too much for low quality brands, and then it all exploded,
yeah.
not understanding the uniqueness of what it takes to run a business, or an Amazon business specifically.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so I'm gonna, wrap it up. So if you have to give one actionable insight or one actionable, uh, uh, uh activity or one thing that, you would one advice to the listeners, what would it be?
I would probably, I mean, there's probably a two or three, but I'd probably what we were talking about there, which was AMC. Don't be scared of it.
Yeah,
Don't be scared of it. You don't need to know SQL.
yeah,
It's made really simple, and I think now I think they announced agents on Amazon in the last couple of days that make it even easier. But don't be scared of it. Run those. Go into AMC. Run a few reports. Throw it into ChatGPT or whatever, and make sure it actually makes sense, and see what the insights are. And
yeah,
you'll be really shocked at how much. You don't have to be a data specialist. How much insights you can get. And as I say, that
yeah,
example where other ads were contributing, and all you then need to do is increase your campaigns and budgets for
yeah,
sponsored display in that example, and suddenly bingo,
yeah,
you've got yourself some nice tidy sales
Yeah.
out the other end. Don't be scared of it. It's not. I'm only in the very early stages, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not as scary as I thought it was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. AMC is very interesting as well. So yeah, I would also suggest to play with it and figure out how to do it. ChatGPT is good with the giving you really good code. So yeah, that's one thing
Yeah, I
that
mean,
you can rely on.
it is what it is. I mean, if you're really comfortable with data, then you can get the insights yourself with a few pivot tables and stuff.
Yeah,
But the important thing is, and it's you know, this is only going to get easier.
yeah.
Yeah, when AMC
That's
first came out, it was scary because you could only
yeah,
interact it with SQL, and then it
yeah,
became a little bit easier when they started to add templates, and now it's kind of half and half. You have to do a few jobs to modify. It, it's just going to get easier, but it's not so much. It's more I'm trying to say to people, you know, understand the fundamentals of your business and what's really happening. And one of those is AMC, and the others is,
yeah,
all the stuff we've talked about before you start just focusing on revenue. Because the mistake I see a lot is they celebrate revenue increases without
yeah,
understanding the market context. Their revenue might have gone up 10% last month. Well, if
yeah,
the market went up 20%, you've just lost
yeah,
market share.
yeah.
Don't
That's
celebrate
right.
that necessarily. So
Yeah.
you've got to do it in context. And anyway, that's it's about understanding what's really going on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the
No
podcast.
problem at all.
It has gone a little longer than we anticipated,
Yes,
but it
sorry.
was a really good
Good
conversation.
talking.
No, I loved it. To be honest, I wanted to go on, but then I was like, it is going to get to the 2 hour mark, so let's just stop here. So yeah, so yeah, but it was really nice, talking to you.
Thank you.
Hopefully, we can do a similar session soon, so that
Yes,
we can
I'd
get
love to
into
come
more.
back and dig into some. And we didn't really talk about inventory and all
Yeah,
the
yeah,
all
yeah.
the other great stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
other areas that we can really dig into.
Yeah, sure. So we will do a next session, pretty soon as well. And but this
Lovely.
was really nice. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you. Appreciate
bye.
it. Thank you.